So yeah, probably a pretty quick week this week, but got a few check-ins to do to start us off. Before I forget, could somebody take some notes for me?
Sure, I can do that.
Thank you, Lawrence. You saved Turk being assigned to that duty. Yeah, so we released 3.17 on, let me check the date, November 23rd. So that's exciting. That had everybody's favorite feature, MTU auto detection, which was a long time coming. I think it was one of our oldest GitHub issues at this point, still open. Maybe one older that we're going to take off next around OpenStack. But yeah, that's in. So really excited. That should help a lot with people seeing weird performance behavior when they install. We also got BGP networking support for Windows and additional testing and platform support for Windows as well. So those are kind of the three big pushes we made in that release. There were a ton of other bug fixes and changes that went in.
One question,
Well,
Daisy. Does the MTU thing mean that we should not set a value in the config map?
Yeah, so if you look at the newest set of manifests, they have that value unset, so it's just an empty string. And that signifies, come up with a value based on what you see on the host and what encapsulations you've got enabled and so forth. So you can still override that auto detection if you'd like by specifying a value there, but you shouldn't need to.
Okay, thanks.
So I have a question about that. I think we've had cases in the past where customers have been using additional VPNs between pods or over the top. And in that case, they've needed to set the MTU lower. There's no way Calico would be able to detect that, right? We're not that sophisticated, right? It's looking at the interface MTUs.
Yeah, so it's basing it off of the nodes network. So if there's something additional that they're doing within the pod, I don't think Calico is going to spot that. So that would be one of those scenarios. I suspect they'll need to override that detection.
And then, sorry, one more question. If your kube cluster has nodes that have different MTUs, are we smart enough to pick the lowest one, or how does that work?
Sorry, it's just a really loud siren outside my apartment. So it's not going to do like cross-node coordination of that, but it will use the different MTUs for pods launched on those different nodes. So if node A has MTU 1500 and node B has 1600, pods on node A will have their auto detection based on that 1500 value.
Okay.
It looks at the interfaces on the host, and there's a regex you can set if it's not picking up the interfaces you want it to pick up, but it'll default to something that should pick up most common cases.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, and this is, of course, the first iteration of this. There are already some other improvements to it that we've got in flight that I was going to talk about a little bit later. So that one of the things we're doing in 3.18 is enhancing this so that it can tune MTU for already running pods. So today it will only do this for new pods that are launched. So if you change your network MTU, or you want to upgrade from a cluster that didn't have auto MTU, those pods won't get the changes, but hopefully in 3.18 we'll be able to tweak that. And as always, if there are other use cases we hadn't spotted or whatever, yeah, happy to see how we can make this even better. We are planning on doing a 3.17.1. I am hoping to cut that probably tomorrow is the way it's looking, but definitely this week. And that has a few bug fixes in it, including the source destination readiness check fix. Actually, all of these, Steve, are ones that you're related to. So readiness check fix, the kube-controllers running as non-root by default fix, and the eBPF node port for host network pods fix should all be in that patch release.
Yeah, the last one, there might still be a problem with it. Figure it out.
Well, we may need to do a 3.17.2 for that then. We'll see how quickly Sean can type. Yeah, so 3.18, we're just about finishing up on scope for that now. It's a little bit of a smaller release just because of holidays taking up the big chunk of development time there. But it's going to have that MTU bit of work that I was just talking about, updating it for running pods. And a couple improvements to our service advertisement features. So we want to add support for advertising load balancer IPs in addition to cluster IPs and external IPs, which we do today. So that we'll let people implement load balancer type services on their on-prem clusters.
That sort of kind of to integrate with Metal LB and stuff, because that's been a pain point.
Yeah, it is part of that. So, we looked at a few different things here. The pain point with Metal LB is that we both want to run BGP on the same node, and then we conflict over ports, and it's kind of awkward to set up peering between the two. So the approach we're starting with is we're going to replace the speaker component of Metal LB, meaning you won't need to run the daemon set that Metal LB ships. And then you can you can use whatever approach you want to actually assign the load balancer IP addresses. But the way that I'm expecting most people to do this is just to run the Metal LB controller component, which will handle allocating and dishing out those addresses to services. So that'll be great. I know people have been jumping through hoops to get Metal LB working for a while now. And then we're also adding a control to specify which nodes you actually want to advertise service IPs from. I think there are a number of scenarios where you have nodes in your cluster that you don't want to be looping traffic through as they come in from the outside world. The most common one is the nodes hosting your control plane components.
That sort of overlaps with a feature that we've been exploring. There's a feature gate or two that I think it's called something like legacy node behavior, of where for load balancer services, it controls by way of node labels which nodes get registered as targets. And then also there's labels, or sorry, an annotation that you can put on the service, which is a label selector that further filters down for this particular service which of those nodes will be registered as targets. So that's only from the load balancer's perspective, but I think you're talking about more generally, right?
It's a similar sort of thing, yeah. I think that we hadn't looked at the per service implementation yet, but the label is, I think, the same one that we were planning to respect, so that we get the same sort of behavior as you would see on, you know, a hosted cloud or public cloud. So I think that there's like a exclude load balancer label or something like that. I can't remember exactly what it's called. And yeah, the idea is we would respect that, and if your node is labeled with that, we won't send out service advertisements from that node.
Okay.
Effectively removing it from the load balancer.
Are you talking about publishing to the endpoints, endpoint slices as well?
I don't think that we would be writing anything back to the Kubernetes API.
Okay.
This is simply, if your node is labeled with this label, then our BGP agent won't advertise that it has these services on it.
Okay, got it.
So those are the like main enhancements for 3.18. There'll be, as always, a handful of smaller bug fixes and things that go in. And we're still trying to figure out a date, but it'll definitely be next year. Guessing late January, early February. In other news, we did have KubeCon a couple of weeks back, November. And Alois and I gave a talk on the Calico VPP integration. The video for that is up now as of, I think, like Monday. So just in time to announce it here. So if you didn't see that, you can check it out on YouTube. I'll grab the link and throw it in the notes. There you go. I think that is all that I had for check-ins. Nathan, did you want to talk?
I've got one to add.
Oh.
At Tigera, we've been working on putting together a free training course for Calico, and we've got a bunch of people who are pre-registered, and we're working through the list, inviting them onto the course. But for anybody who's on this call or watching the video, you can check it out for yourselves and enroll if you go to academy.tigera.io.
Yeah, I have yet to take it myself. I'm a little bit afraid that I won't be able to beat Rob's 99%.
On the score, yeah.
Yeah, that's been preventing me from trying it out, but I will soon. Nathan, do you want to talk a little bit about VPP?
Sure. So concerning the Calico integration, we did release at the start of the week 0.10 version, which has wireguard support, which is interoperable with vanilla Calico. We didn't test it yet with eBPF, which don't see any reason why it shouldn't be. We also have MTU configuration. It's still not yet auto configuration because we need to catch back on 3.17. We are still bound to 3.15. We added auto uplink driver configuration, so trying in all the different drivers we provide to ease a bit the process of configuring VPP, which can be at times a bit hard, grabbing the PCI ID and this and that. So it should be easier via just a variable. And we are going full steam on policies. As Alois is not there and he's working on policies, I can sell his work and saying that he's gonna deliver for Christmas. But hopefully we'll be able. We're passing the Kubernetes test, and we're looking at going through the more refined test you have in PCI to be able to qualify as GA able, hopefully before the end of the year. And on the other small things we are looking at right now, we have an issue with containerd, which we are trying to address, and also we're trying to be able to run without switch pages, something that we've been looking at, and support also load balancer services that we don't yet have integration with. I think I want to be a bit quick for the. I think the. I can.
I think Lawrence is still typing up the.
Yeah, Nathan, if you want to type, go into that doc and type in your. That'd be super helpful.
I'll provide some details too.
But that sounds very, very exciting. It's great to hear that progress.
Yes, I agree. Thank you, Nathan. Are there any other updates for this section? That's all I had.
I can mention a few things that we're working on for the operator. One of them, something I'm working on, actually, I guess a couple things. There's an issue with using new, like if you're upgrading the operator and using new features, right now, if you like apply it all at one time, like the CRD is upgrading the operator and apply an update to the resource, that resource can get overwritten if you're using new fields that the currently running operator doesn't know about. So I'm working on a fix for that. So we'll switch to patching those resources instead of just updating them. So, or at least that's the plan. There's another thing that I'm working on that just slipped my mind. Using image SHAs references. We had it in at one point, but then we found an issue with it where it was because we were just using it all the time, and we found that those SHAs aren't the same between registries. So we took that back out, and now we're putting in something that's more of an opt-in, like you have to change some configuration to make it happen. So we're looking at doing something like that. There's also some work going on. Daniel's actually working on it some. We're doing some changes to some of the node-selector and tolerations. It's not quite totally ironed out, and we don't have we're not sure on our requirements there, but we're going to be doing some changes around that. Yeah, I think that's all I got.
Thanks, Eric.
Yeah.
So I have an update on one of the hot issues that we've talked about for a couple meetings now. It's not that much of an update, but we were talking last time about this issue where connections to the API server could drop and Calico wouldn't notice that it happened because it wasn't propagated up through the client. The fix has been merged to Kubernetes client libraries. That adds a heartbeat on that connection. So I think another fix went in recently to make that configurable as well. And it's been backported to 1.19 of Kubernetes. Once they release that, right now it's just on the branch, but they haven't got a patch release. It should just be a matter of updating our pin to pull in that version of the client library, and a bunch of these issues will go away. So I am anxiously awaiting that. Got it open in a tab and I refresh it every couple hours to see when they cut the release. Yeah, so I think that's all there's to say about that, but hopefully soon. Excited to get that out of the way. That's a pretty frustrating one. What are you laughing about, Eric?
Our weird pauses because the siren's outside your apartment.
That one wasn't a siren. That was somebody honking and somebody else yelling back at a honking car. So it's diverse. So that was the only issue I had. I don't know if there were other issues people wanted to talk about or ask questions about.
Yeah, I've got one that's still hot for me, at least, which you mentioned earlier, the fix for it. It's this eBPF node port forwarding problem, in particular in concert with network load balancers. So I don't know whether something new broke or something, but before what I was seeing was that the load balancers would find their targets to be healthy, but then the traffic didn't flow correctly. Like connections, I think, weren't established all the way through, or at least the traffic on open connections wasn't making it all the way to the target machine. We have a fix for that now, but now it looks like though the traffic seems to flow just fine, the load balancers are no longer convinced that certain machines are healthy. So seems like we can have health but not traffic, or traffic but not health. But it's kind of mystical to me because it's really hard to tell what is going on the load from the load balancer's perspective. Because we're not running that component ourselves, we can't go look at it from the other side and see what is not satisfying it.
Yep, I think we'll just have to keep digging on that one, Steve. It's a bit of a strange one. I can't think off the top of my head of any difference between the packet path on the working machines and then ones in the same subnet where it's failing. So that one's a bit of a strange one. The previous iteration of the bug, as soon as you identified which machines were hitting it, like it was very obvious what the problem was from our point of view. But this one is a bit of a puzzle.
Yeah.
And we might just need to do a bit more digging and, you know, maybe get some packet capture or something.
Sure. Okay. I can also, I have not spent, or I should say, made good on the money we pay at AWS for support. So I could also engage with them and see if they can tell me anything about, you know, from your side, what is not looking good about these machines.
Yeah, I don't know if they have anything on their side, but might be worth asking.
Okay.
Any other issues? If not, then we can move on to shoutouts.
So I had one. It was Steve. He's been jumping through lots of hoops to give us great diagnostics for the BPF problems he's been hitting. So these can be a bit tricky to diagnose. You know, we need to get BPF trace, which is quite involved, or packet capture and all that. And he's been jumping through all these hoops and helping us get to the bottom of the issues that he's been hitting. So that's really really helped us fix like 2 or 3 issues so far, and it looks like he's found another one. So that's great.
Well, thank you. Your response has been really fast, and I appreciate the attention. It's
I mean, these are critical issues for us. That it's really important to get these paths stable. I think our testing, like while we do test load balancers and we do test NLBs and CLBs and all these things, some of the problems you've been hitting are kind of the long tail where the initial test works, or if you just test it after it starts, then it's okay, but you have to do a kind of more of a soak, or wait a few minutes for a connection to drop and then test, and those kinds of issues. So it's great to start tackling those issues. And we're also we're discussing in my team how we can better catch some of these issues, although they are quite hard to test. Even now we know what they are. Like we can test at a low level, like did the BPF program do exactly the right thing for exactly this packet? But testing the end-to-end scenarios that we've been finding issues with is quite a challenge when the issues are things like intermittent drops and things like that. So we're ruminating on that.
That's great to hear. Getting this, sorry, notifications stop. Getting the eBPF stuff into service for us, one of the kind of surprising benefits of it is the source IP preservation, and we have a lot of workarounds in our system to try to recover that with things like proxy protocol from the load balancers, and discovering that we could get rid of most of that if we can get this eBPF stuff working is going to be great.
Awesome, yeah. I think like eBPF kind of has the whiz bang reputation of, you know, it's going to be super performant and all that sort of stuff. But I think that was one of the things that we really liked as well, that we could deal with this usability problem, even if you're not running at crazy bit rates and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
I'm glad to hear that.
Nathan's getting a glimpse of what early 2021 is going to be like for him.
Definitely.
Well, I came unprepared and don't have a shout out this week, but does anybody else? I'm doubly unprepared because I was also supposed to demo something, but didn't quite get as far as I hoped I would. So I'm here empty-handed. I don't even have anything to juggle or an instrument or something to entertain you with.
You can make up for it with the Christmas presents, Casey.
Sounds good. You're all getting, there you go. Sean can juggle for us. Everybody gets a Christmas present except for Turk. Do we have any other questions or just general things we could try to help answer?
Are any of you folks running things in production that have any other pain points like the one Steve was just describing with losing the source IP and that kind of thing? Anything else we can, any other rough edges we can knock off?
So we're hitting a problem. We've hit it for quite a while with leaked pod IPs. I think it has to do when a Kubernetes node crashes or gets rebooted, right? And those aren't cleaned up. We have a tool that we can run that periodically goes through and cleans them up in IPAM.
Yeah.
It's super slow because we have huge CIDR ranges, but we're hitting a problem now, and I opened a support ticket for it. But basically all the CIDR full blocks, or all the blocks get full. And even when we remove all the IPAM entries, Calico still tags that block as full. So then the only thing left for Calico to do is to give out individual IPs, which makes the routing tables huge. So I am working through the ticket. It's been open for about a week, but that is something that I know was looked at one point, but we're still seeing it. And it is becoming a bigger problem for some of our larger customers that have 20,000 pod IPs, right? That they're filling up their full blocks and causing problems.
Great, yeah. I mean, IPAM issues are definitely things we want to jump on as well. I hope the severity of that ticket is going through our system. I thought I saw Casey.
Yeah, I've been looking at that on the other side.
Okay.
I think I understand what's going on with that one, but I think there are a collection of IPAM issues that I need to devise a holistic solution for. I'm hoping to do that pretty soon.
So if I remember correctly, Casey wrote a sort of FS check sort of system for IPAM that we were hoping was going to solve a lot of these problems where we might not know what the specific issue is, but it should garbage collect things. But we actually ran into an issue with the Kubernetes API, I think. So we had it all working and then found a really subtle issue with the Kubernetes API.
Yeah, it relied on owner references and finalizers, and very subtle issue around owner references between namespaced and non-namespaced objects that was behaving one way, and then in certain scenarios had non-deterministic behavior. And I raised it with the API machinery people, and they said, oh, we shouldn't be allowing that in the first place. Which is not quite the answer I was looking for.
Yeah. I think for the clusters we're hitting it now for, they're still back on the etcd data store. We were just moving to, I don't know if that affects what you're talking about, but yeah, we're moving everybody to KDD now that we have the migration tool, but those large clusters are still on etcd for now.
Yeah, well, for that specific issue, I'm looking at the ticket. I think I understand what's going on, but I'm not sure if you've gotten the latest round of thoughts from me yet. But yeah, those are very important, and we want to get those all squashed.
All right, thanks.
Okay, well, sounds like maybe we have reached the end. In that case, I guess our next meeting is next year, on the 13th of January. So enjoy the holidays, everybody, and I'll see you on the other side.
Thank you.
Holidays, everyone.
Hi, everybody.
In touch.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays, guys.